Hello students, welcome to our Afda video lesson number 8, and this is going to be an introduction into solving equations with absolute value. So we're back to equations right now. We want to solve an equation that has absolute value in it. So that's a big term for us today. And talking about equations, you guys know what determines the two sides of an equation. Of course, that's the equal sign going way back to the day. And let me ask you a quick question. About how far in miles, if we were going to drive, about how far do you live from Caroline High School? So think about that. Most of y'all are driving and know about distance, so just think about how far it is. Don't give me a time. You can convert the time. So if it's 10 minutes away and you average, about 60 miles an hour or so, it could be about 10 miles away. But think about that. Now, as you thought about it, did anybody think about a negative number? Did anybody think about, I live negative 2 miles from the high school, or I live negative 20 miles from the high school? Absolute value is sort of embedded in there because absolute value is a distance. And your brain is already pre-programmed to think about distance as a positive number. So when you're thinking about how far you live, or if you were going to even give directions to your house, you're going to be giving positive numbers. So absolute value is a distance from zero. And as we just stated, it's going to be a positive number. Now, these little brackets indicate absolute value. So if we wanted to take the absolute value of, let's say, 4, it's going to be 4 because it's going to come out as a positive value. So we're asking, how far is 4 from 0, let's say, on a number line? Well, how about if we had like negative 7? How far is negative 7 from 0 on a number line? Again, distance, that's going to be positive 7. So anytime a number comes out of absolute value, it's always going to be positive. Now, let's look at our first example here. It has x, or absolute value of x, is equal to 2. Now, how many numbers, or what number, is 2 units away from 0? Well, there's actually, like we automatically think of, well, we know 2 is 2 units from 0, but there's also another number, negative 2. Likewise, if you're looking at 2.3, it doesn't matter if it's a decimal, you know 2.3 is 2.3 from 0, and likewise negative 2.3. Doesn't matter if it's a fraction. How far is a half? Okay, 1/2 is half from 0. How about negative 1/2? So again, you can visualize a number line if you wanted to. Let's say we're looking at 2. You can visualize 1, 2, that being 2 units away, and also negative 2 being 2 units away. So if you cut this number line or folded it right to the 0, they'd be across from each other. And again, you understand that absolute value equations, because that's what we have right here, typically have 2 answers. Okay? So let's look a little bit more in detail here. Let's take a look at example 2. Let me clear this out of the way. All right, so now we have another equation. We have the absolute value of x plus 3 is equal to 11. Notice that this plus 3 is on the outside of the absolute value brackets right there. Okay? So we have approach on this. What we can do, well, the top part there, the part that we just did, example 1, that was pretty simple. Everybody agree? So if we could get equations to look like that, we'd pretty much be home free. So let's see if we can do that. So if we went ahead and subtracted 3 from both sides, we'd have the absolute value of x is equal to 8. And again, that looks like something that you did up there. So hopefully you'll be in good shape and can go ahead and figure out what 2 numbers go in there. You could say that x is going to equal negative 8, or x can equal positive 8. Hold on one sec. All right. Now, they can also relate the answers. That's one way you can write the answer. They could also put it as a solution set where they put -8 in there and also 8. Sometimes you see the answers written that way as a solution set. Let's go back to another equation to see if we can solve it. We could go ahead and add 2 to both sides. Clean that up. We have the absolute value of x is equal to 7. Again, that's sort of like what you did up top there. So think about two numbers. What's the distance from 0? That will give you a 7. And of course, you can say that that x could equal -7 or +7. Fair enough. Let's look at another example about absolute value. Now, example 3 over here looks a little bit different than what we did back over here. Example 3 has some operations on the inside of the absolute value. So we're going to have to take a little different approach. Okay? So just for a moment with me, let's cover up what's inside of that absolute value. So whatever that is has to probably be two numbers. If we took the absolute value of something and we wanted it to be 7, what values would be there? Well, you could think about it's got to be either a 7 or a -7, but it's not. It's an x plus 2. But what we just said is that x plus 2 has got to equal a 7 or -7. So let's just write that down. We can go x plus 2 has got to equal 7, or x plus 2 has got to equal a -7. Agree? And let's solve it and see what we got. So let's subtract 2 from both sides. And we have x is equal to 5. Same sort of steps here. We're going to subtract 2 there. And we have x is equal to a -9. So let's check these because we can always check equations. Let's put 5 in there. What's 5 plus 2? Well, that's 7. The absolute value of 7 is 7. How about -9? -9 plus 2 is -7. The absolute value of -7 is 7. So these guys are my correct answers right there. I can go ahead and lasso those if I wanted to. Let's look at this. What I want you to do is visualize what's underneath my hand is, being either a what? 5 or -5, but it's not. It's an a minus 3. But we know that a minus 3 has got to equal a 5, or a minus 3 has got to equal a -5. Okay? Solve them real quick. Add 3 to both sides. We have a is equal to 8. Add 3 to both sides. We have a is equal to -2. Check them real quick. 8 minus 3 is 5. The absolute value of 5 is 5. -2 minus 3 is -5. The absolute value of -5 is 5. So again, these guys check out right there. And so hopefully we're in good shape. Now, make sure that you sort of treat these absolute value brackets sort of like parentheses. Okay? So the absolute value brackets, when you're working with these guys, want to sort of treat them like parentheses. In other words, do the operations in here first before you take it. So do operations in here before you take the absolute value. Okay? Do those first. But see what happens? So we did -2 minus 3, got -5. Then we take the absolute value of it. So when you have terms or operations inside the absolute value brackets, you should create and solve 2 equations. Okay? That's what we did right here. So we sort of split. And it doesn't matter which one you do first. You put -7 on that side and 7 on that side if you wanted to solve it that way. All right, last section right here, guys. Let's look at example 4. I'm going to clean this up. So hopefully we're home free. All right. Now, let's take a look at this guy. We have operations on the inside, so we're going to think about that. You don't really have to cover it up. That we know that the possible values could be an 8 or -8. So I'm going to do the -1 first this time. I'm going to go 2x plus 2. I'm going to write -8 is going to equal -8. And then I'm going to split it, and I'm going to go 2x plus 2 is going to equal positive 8. So I created my two equations. Now these are a two-stepper because we got a couple operations. Doesn't matter how much is going on in there. Same technique. So we have 2x is equal to negative 10. Then divide by 2. And I have x is equal to negative 5. Okay? This guy over here, steps sort of sound familiar. I got to subtract 2. I get 2x is equal to 6. Divide by 2. And I have x is equal to 3. Run a quick check with them. 2 times negative 5 is negative 10. Plus 2 is negative 8. Absolute value of negative 8 is 8. Check this one. Plug it in. 2 times 3 is 6. Plus 2 is 8. The absolute value of 8 is 8. So those guys check out there. Pretty good. Now, this one over here, everybody see this one clearly? Has a 2 on the outside of the absolute value brackets. It's multiplying. So I'm going to use a little trick that I know. I'm going to undo that multiplication with division. So I'm going to divide both sides by 2. Now I have the absolute value of b minus 3 is equal to 5. Now again, cover that up. B minus 3 could equal 5. Or b minus 3 could equal negative 5. Again, doesn't matter which equation you write first. Just add 3 to both sides. I got b is equal to 8. Go ahead and add 3. Clean that up. I got b is equal to negative 2. Put my negative sign in there. Go back and run a check. Okay, 8 minus 3. 5. 2 times 5 is 10. Be careful with this one. It's negative 2. Negative 2 minus 3, that's negative 5. What's the absolute value of negative 5? Well, that's going to be 5. So we're really thinking about 2 times 5, which is 10. Now, hopefully what you learned today is a little bit about solving absolute value equations. A lot of times you're going to have two possible answers. Sometimes you have to create two equations to solve those. Again, absolute value is the distance from 0 on a number line. When it comes out of absolute value brackets, it's always going to be positive. Thanks for watching.